severe occurrence occurring around the world, I like to think long term. I like to think about where we're going to be at some point in time in the future. So here we find ourselves today. We're talking about the future. We're talking about reality. We have this new economic reality which has invaded our space in the last 6 to 8 months. And a lot of us are wondering, well, how do we focus on opportunity when we're in such challenging recessionary times? What do we do to focus on opportunity? And I think the big question for everybody in the room is, when do we begin to innovate? Do you innovate, once we come out of the recession? Do you wait until we know that, we're all comfortable with where we're going in the future? Or do you choose to innovate now? Do we make the conscious decision right now, each and every one of us, that we are going to focus on the future from this point on? I was on stage in October with one of the world's largest organizations, and during this presentation, this is when the market was crashing. The CEO got up on stage in front of his team, and he said, we have 3 choices in terms of what is going to happen with the economic challenges we are faced with. Number 1, we can panic. Number 2, we can choose to do nothing. We can choose to do what we've always done in the same way. Or number 3, with the new economic realities in which we find ourselves, we can change, we can innovate, and we can adapt. Their conscious decision is, we're going to build for growth. We're going to make a conscious decision that we are going to be a driver of that growth. Innovative organizations today are focused on opportunity. I was talking at one event in October as the meltdown was beginning to occur, and the CEO was on stage, and part of his message was, look, given what's happening, we have 3 choices. Number 1, we can panic. Number 2, we can do nothing. Or number 3, we can continue to innovate, change, and adapt. The time to innovate is now. The time to change is now. The time to invest in the future is now. The time to innovate now. The time to invest in the future is now. The time to align yourself to a new reality is right now. Futurist Jim Carroll from the Home Broadcast Virtual Studio, analyzing some of the breaking news that came out this morning, which I actually wrote about in my blog post before knowing that this news was actually going to come out. I guess that's what a futurist does. And of course, the big news has to do with the cancellation of the Consumer Electronic CES show in Las Vegas in January. And a lot of people are shocked. What, you mean it's not going on? Of course it's not going on. The event space, the meeting industry, the convention industry is probably going to be one of the last industries to come out of this global pandemic because it involves such complex logistics in terms of trying to bring people back. So to me, it's not a surprise at all. And here's what I actually wrote about this morning. In my blog post, I said, think about what is going on. You won't be going to a conference, event, or corporate offsite for a long time to come. Even so, you don't like the virtual events that you're attending, and that's because, as I wrote in my post, there's a lot of shitty events put out there right now with lousy content, lousy screens, lousy stuff. We're not doing a good job of this so far, and yet the crushing need for insight, awareness, up-to-date news, the ability for people to be educated on the trends which are impacting their industry, that has not gone away. So somehow we have to get used to this new virtual space. We need to do it better. And that's what I've been focused on relentlessly because, as you know, I've been talking about for quite some time the 7 stages of economic grief. Here's what I think has been happening in the meeting planner, in the event, in the convention, in the conference industry. A lot of folks have been in the mindset that, well, we're just going to wait for a vaccine to come out and we'll all go back to normal. We're going to have events in the spring of 2021. Things are going to be a little bit more clear in terms of what we can do. So we're not going to plan things for the fall. We're going to plan to go back to live events in the spring of 2021 or the summer of 2021. And what I find is happening with folks who are in that mindset is they haven't really done a good job of going through these 7 stages of economic grief, the 7 stages of COVID grief. Think about what happens when we get a massive economic challenge to our business model. We go through shock, we go through anger, we go through denial, we go through bargaining. Can this be real? You have to get to the acceptance stage first. And certainly that's what I've done by virtue of the investments I've made in my home broadcast studio here. I think the reality for the event industry is real. We're going to be in a virtual world for quite some time to come, and so it is critical to double down on the investments that we need to make in order to do it and do it right. And that's why I keep building new studio stage sets. That's why I keep investing. That's why I keep on going live to figure out how to get really good at this. Because our reality is I'm going to be down here for quite some time in the future sharing my insight with the world, and I plan on building a big global audience and a big global market to share the insight that I used to do on stage around the world in front of thousands. And you know what? It's working. I just got another booking this morning for an event in October that will be fully virtual. There is massive business model disruption happening right now in the convention, meeting, and conference industry space. And if you're not part of it, if you are not innovating at the speed of the change, if you're not getting involved with virtual sets like this in order to elevate your capabilities, to take your insight to the world, to take your association members into the world in a way that they are engaged, active, and actually watching the content which is being rolled out to them in a virtual space. If you are not innovating with all of the technologies that are unfolding here, if you are not in the acceptance stage that this is your reality for quite some time to come, you're not living in the real world. My reality is this green wall behind me, my canvas of creativity. I'm innovating at an absolutely furious pace because I intend to be one of the top virtual speakers in the world by virtue of what I can accomplish in my home broadcast studio. You should be part of the voyage as well. If you want to learn more about this, visit virtual.jimcarroll.com. Thank you for watching.